Hey folks, it's Rob's Movie Collection, and I'm here for my fourth name tag, and probably final name tag for a while, because this is the last category or genre in my collection where I actually have all the letters to my name, R-O-B-E-R-T. So the other ones I don't have the complete letters yet, so maybe in the future when I buy some movies that'll fit in those letters. But for now, this is the last one. Before I get on with it, just a quick thank you to Mike of Gray 1951. In his latest video, he gave me a really great shout out and advertising my channel and giving me some great compliments, and I really appreciate it, Mike. And this guy has welcomed me to this little movie collectors community that there is here on YouTube, and I really appreciate it. It's always kind of hard to come into something new, and he's made me feel very welcome, and I really appreciate it, Mike. You rock. You're awesome. Check out his channel. He has a lot of great videos about movies, and he's very intelligent about them, and he makes some really great points, and there's a lot of good recommendations on there. So he's a class act, and I'll try to put in a link to his latest video down in the descriptions. I've never done that before, but I think it should be relatively easy. I'm not kind of a computer person, but hopefully I'll be able to do it. And if not, still, you just go to Gray 1951, and there's his channel. So anyway, okay, so let's get on with the comedy. So my first comedy in the letter R, my first R in my name, is Real Genius. This is a movie from 1985. It stars a very, very young Val Kilmer. I'm not sure if this was his first film or Top Secret was his first film, but it certainly is one of his first films, as you can see, because he's so young here. It also co-stars a guy named Gabriel Jarrett, who's actually the main character in the film. He plays this young guy who goes to college early on because he's such a genius. And this is kind of what he's known for. He kind of disappeared after this. I never really saw him too much. Mostly I always just thought, boy, this guy really looks like Sarah Jessica Parker. I mean, he really looks like Sarah Jessica Parker. It's strange, but and he must be related. I mean, they look like siblings, but apparently they're not. I don't know. I wonder if they've ever met. But anyway, and it also co-stars an actress named Michelle Mayring, who was actually in another movie around this time about kind of nerdy people called Revenge of the Nerds, if you might remember that. She played Anthony Edwards' girlfriend, or he ends up becoming his girlfriend, and she did a great job in this. And so anyway, it's it's a really good movie, about a good little comedy kind of. Originally, I did actually want to do Revenge of the Nerds as my first R, but then I thought, well, I'll dip into like a little lesser known comedy that's really good in its own way. And check out Real Genius. They get this. Kilmer plays this guy, this really smart guy who's trying to come up with this laser or something, and this kid, Gabriel Jarrett, comes in and helps him finally do it, and then it turns out that the teacher is actually wanted for a military contract, and blah 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 and all that stuff, and it works out in the end. So and very funny, in a very funny way. So check it out, Real Genius. Okay, so for the O, I have Only the Lonely. This is from 1991, starring the great John Candy and even more great Maureen O'Hara. I think Maureen O'Hara actually came out of retirement to do this role, because she had already retired, and they sent her the script and she loved it, and she came out and did this, and fiery as always. Also co-starring Ali Sheedy, and of course, last but not least, the great Anthony Quinn as Nick, the next door Greek neighbor who is trying to woo Maureen O'Hara. This is a great little movie, great little romantic movie, a little different for John Candy. Not one of his, I don't think, more well-known ones like say Uncle Buck or such, but it was very, very sweet. See, touching and funny, definitely touching and funny. Very sweet movie about this cop who's taking care of his mother, and but he wants a life, he wants to fall in love, and he ends up meeting this girl, and yeah, very, very good movies, directed by Chris Columbus, of course, who went on to do Home Alone and a couple of the Harry Potter movies. Just a really nice movie and really great performances, and highly recommend that one, so check it out. Okay, for the B in my name, we've got Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddle, from 1974. I assume everybody knows this movie. This is one of his big movies, Blazing Saddles. You know, this is starring Cleavon Little as Bart, and co-starring Gene Wilder as the Waco Kid, and the great Madeline Kahn, of course, is in there, and Harvey Korman, just Harvey Korman as Hedley Lamar in one of his great performances. Who did several of Mel Brooks' movies, both this and High Anxiety, and just, you know, and Dracula Dead and Loving It. So he's all over the Mel Brooks movies. Mel Brooks himself also plays a couple of parts in this film. A Jewish Indian, he plays the mayor. He just, you know, only Mel Brooks could come up with this. Now, of course, for those of you, especially those younger people who have grown up in a more politically correct environment, you should know, be warned, this is not the most PC movie. It is a satire. It satires racism and a bunch of other things. So, you know, that big word is in it, the big word that should not be said these days, or really any days, but it's in there for a reason. And you know, one of the writers was Richard Pryor, so he definitely put that in there a lot. You just gotta see it in that way. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's just a hilarious movie. It's one of his best. Too many great scenes to describe here, especially in this type of video. I'd have to make an individual video, which I probably will of this one, because it is Mel Brooks. My second favorite Mel Brooks movie, my first favorite still being Young Frankenstein, but this is just a great movie, so definitely check it out. Okay, so for the E, I've got Ed Wood. This is from 1994, and starring, of course, Johnny Depp, Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi. Oops, a little focus problem there. Bill Murray is in it as well, and Sarah Jessica Parker, sister to Gabriel No, it's not actually his sister, okay, but anyway, but she's in there. So this is a story, of course, about someone who's considered, Ed Wood, to be considered one of the worst filmmakers, or worst filmmaker of all time. I'm not so sure about that. I've seen plenty of other worse movies. But there we go, we focused. Alright, I don't know what's going on with this phone camera, so sorry about the unfocus sometimes. But you know, in these movies that are biographical movies, you have to kind of take them with a grain of salt, because that's why they always say based on a true story. They kind of do their own little thing sometimes. When I lived in Hollywood, there was a guy named Forrest Ackerman who had been the publisher to Famous Monsters movie magazine. Some of you may know him or remember that magazine. He lived up in the Hollywood Hills, and every Saturday he would just open up his house. He had this huge collection of just sci-fi, fantasy memorabilia, and he would just open up his house to anybody who wanted to go and just check it out, and he'd give these tours. And he was a fun guy, he was a great guy, very generous guy. And I went there a couple of times, and around the time this movie came out, they asked him about it, and he just hated it, because he thought that they treated Bela Lugosi very badly and showed him very pathetically. And in truth, when you look it up, it's kind of true, because the fact is that, you know, like in the funeral scene, they make it seem like nobody was there, but Forrest Ackerman said, hey, I was the 100th person to file past that casket. So, and I happen to know that Bela Lugosi has a son, Bela Lugosi Jr., who's always out there promoting his father's films and his career, and they never even mentioned that he existed in this film. So yeah, I can see that. I can see where they might have gone off the rails there. Despite that, it is a good film, directed by Tim Burton. I always liked Tim Burton. Just kind of look at it as a piece of fiction, and then maybe really look up Bela Lugosi and his real career and his real life and how things went and how things really were for him. But as a film, as a piece of fiction, this is one of Tim Burton's best, one of Johnny Depp's best, and definitely recommend checking it out. Okay, so moving on. Second R in my name, we've got Roxanne. Now, Roxanne is from 1987, There we go, focus. Starring, of course, Steve Martin and Daryl Hannah, and the hunky Rick Rossovich as the guy who couldn't talk to women and had to be helped by CD here, by Steve Martin. Of course, this is a kind of a retelling of the Cyrano de Bergerac story, and with the big nose and all. What a great idea for a movie, and what a great interpretation of it. And Steve Martin did a great job, and he's very sensitive, and he's very funny, and it takes place in this little town. I remember thinking, well, what a cool little town to live in. Wouldn't that'd be a nice place to go move to someday. You know, coming from a big city like LA. It's like, yeah, well, everybody knows each other, and yeah, that'd be really nice. Yeah, check out Roxanne. It's one of his best. It's a nice little love story, especially the scene in the bar where some bully insults him, and he kind of turns it around on the guy and comes up with 20 different insults for a guy with a big nose, and just puts the guy down, shuts him down. That's a great scene, so check that out. Roxanne. Finally, for the T in my name, we've got Trading Places, starring Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd and Jamie Lee Curtis. This was, I think, Eddie Murphy's first foray into film was actually 48 Hours, and people love that film. And I've never really was a big fan of that. I mean, for me, Eddie Murphy first kind of got big with this film. This is the one that I really liked him in. This was a funny film. This was you also had this is directed by John Landis, of course John Landis. But really funny film about these two guys two rich guys who were bored, and they wanted to experiment and see what would happen if you take like a poor guy off the street and give him money, and take at the same time one of the rich guys and put him on the street and see what would happen. And they're basically playing with people's lives. And of course, these two guys end up getting back at them and kind of turning the tables on them by the end of the film. Really funny movie, a lot of funny moments in it. I think one of the best for both of these guys. And yeah, check it out. I love Trading Places. I think it's one of the better films. So, looking good, feeling good edition. That's part of the movie. If you see it, you'll know what they're talking about. So, okay, so that's my comedy name tag. That's going to be, like I said, my last one for a bit. I'm going to move on to other things, maybe do some individual videos again of individual movies, and a couple of other things. And yeah, really appreciate watching. Really thank you. And please feel free to comment, subscribe, check it out. Check out some of these comedies. Tell me what you think. Comments are welcome. So, okay, keep watching movies.